Hi, I'm Ed from Ridgid. Today we're going to talk about the 141 geared threader. The capacity for this threader is 2.5 to 4 inch. The style of materials that you can thread with this is galvanized steel, stainless steel, and black iron. Be sure that you have the correct dies when you're choosing materials to thread. The 3 different ways that you can connect this or use it is by hand, close couple, and with a drive shaft method. In the later videos we will show you how to do that in detail. In this portion of the video we're going to show you how to change the dies into 141. First thing you have to do is with your flathead screwdriver loosen this stop and take this out. Next what you do is you grab the cam plate by the knobs, pull them out, and take them all the way over until they lock in the position that says CD, which stands for change dies. At this point you pull your dies out. With your other set of dies, make sure that they're clean, and each one of them has a number. The number corresponds with pocket in the die head, so make sure that you line those up correctly. Also, the bottom of it has a pin. Put the pin in that position so that it can engage in the cam plate correctly, and at that point you do it the same thing to the rest of the dies as you're installing them. Once again, remember to put, for example, die number 1 in pocket number 1, and so on and so forth. So we're almost done here. Number 5. Make sure that they're all pushed in. Grab your cam plate once again and index it over. It doesn't really matter where you set it now because you're going to set your die head for size afterwards. Reinstall your stop and tighten it with your screwdriver, and that's it. Right now what I'm going to show you how to do is change from NPT to NPSM, or tapered thread to straight thread, on the 141. And how you do that is by removing this guide post. You have to take this pin out. And there you have your pin. Then you lift the guide post out, and on one side you have a straight slot, and that is for doing straight threads or NPSM threads, and on the other side you have this angled slot for doing NPT or tapered threads. Also down here you have this guide block. The guide block is what controls the dies. As you see, when I move this, it controls a cam plate, and in return it moves the dies in or out. So in order to do this, we're going to set this up for NPT. So I'll switch this around to this side. We're going to slide our guide post down through here, and the guide block has to engage the groove itself. So set that in there like so. Make sure that you align it up so that you can install your pin, and then you'll screw this right in there. There you go. I'm going to show you the close coupled method for connecting the 141 to the 300 power drive. Before that, what I do want to show you is how to set this to the proper size. It's important to do this before you have it mounted to the machine, because if not it gets extremely difficult, being that it's so close to the power drive. So first things first, you have your cam plate here, and it has these 2 knobs that are spring loaded. On one side of it you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sizes, and then the 5th one is for changing dies, which is covered in a different portion of the video. But there's a hole associated with each size. So you can grab this, pull the knobs out, and move it to whatever size you're going to thread. In this case we're going to do 4 inch, so make sure that one of the adjustment knobs lines up to the 4 inch mark. The second thing you have to do is adjust it for depth. And right here on this guide post you have 3 lines. You can only see 2 of them here, but what they say is, for example, in the middle is a standard line, which is the one we're going to work with, and then you have the top one that says 2 turns under and the bottom one that says 2 turns over. Okay? So what you do is you grab it by the work holder, hold it with one hand, and you spin this back until you back that up to the appropriate line. Okay? And usually what I do is I'll bring it past it and then turn this just until that line is exposed. Okay, there you have that set. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the 844 drive bar. Okay, the 844 drive bar has 2 set screws in the front, and this is a square drive. Okay, so that matches this part right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to install that like so, and you're going to use an Allen wrench and bring these up evenly. Okay, don't tighten one and then come and tighten the other, because it could create a wobbling situation. So tighten that one and tighten that one, and you're good to go. In this portion of the video, we're going to show you how to mount the 141 to the 300 power drive. First thing you need to do is slide these 2 support arms back. You have a collet here that has an 1/8 inch set screw, so grab your Allen wrench, loosen up the set screw, and slide this back until you hear it click. Okay? You do the same thing for the one on the back side. Loosen up your screw and slide it back till it clicks. Make sure that your chuck in the front is completely open and that your centering device in the back is completely open. This will make it easier for you to slide the drive bar through the spindle. Okay? Now, as you're doing this, make sure that you align these grooves with the jaws. So insert that in place. It doesn't have to go in all the way. You chuck that up and tighten your centering device in the back. Now, once everything is there, make sure that all 3 jaws in the back are touching the drive bar and that everything is aligned correctly in the front. Okay? Now what you do is you install your loop. What the loop does is it keeps the 141 stable under high torque conditions. Okay, so you slide that in place, put your screw in place, and then you take your support arm and you slide that through. And at this point, tighten your set screw to ensure that that support arm doesn't come out from the loop. So we are now ready to install the pipe into the 141. The first thing you want to make sure of is that your centering jaws in the back are completely open and that your clamp screw, which there'll be other videos on this, is completely backed out as well. Okay? Once you have correctly cut and reamed your pipe, go ahead and grab your pipe and install it into the 141 gently until it stops. You don't want to chip any teeth on the dies. Have an ordinary level here, and I'm not really worried about leveling the machine. What I want to make sure of is that the pipe is in line with what the machine is doing. Okay? So right here I can see that my bubble is slightly to the right. So when I put it on the pipe, I want to make sure that it is doing the same thing. So I'll adjust this back a little bit. Right about there. So now we're good to go. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is make sure that the throat of the dies is touching the end of the pipe. So if you look right between here, which again there'll be other video on this, you want to slide this forward and make sure that the throat of the dies are hitting or touching the end of the pipe. At this point, you have this tool that comes with the 141. So you're going to stick it in one of the holes and you're going to tighten this. Okay? And then you're going to go ahead and manually bring up your clamp screw until it stops. And then with this part of the wrench, you're going to put that on the clamp screw and tighten it, you know, good and snug. You don't want to over tighten it because you can crush the pipe. As you see here, it's created a gap once it's centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up again to support it and recheck everything to make sure that it's going to work out okay. So once again, it's just to the right a little bit. So I'm going to put my pipe there. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now we're ready to thread. Everything has been set, and I have my oiler here. I'm going to turn on the machine. The switch is in the forward position. Okay, and I'm going to make sure to oil everything. Okay, proper oiling is very important so you don't wear out your dies. When this gets towards the end, what's going to happen is you're going to see on this drive shaft here where it spells stop, there's going to be an arrow, and then there's going to be a line. The top of the die head is going to stop at that line. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so now we're at that mark where it says stop, and at this point what we're going to do is we're going to throw it in reverse and break the chips off. So you put that in reverse, tap the foot switch, okay. It's important to understand you don't want to run this in reverse to take the pipe completely off of the die head, because you can ruin your dies, you can break the teeth on it, and so forth. All you want to do is run it in reverse enough for you to break the chip off. At that point, then we will we'll take the pipe and I'll show you how to remove the pipe from the die head. The first thing we have to do is loosen this screw. Okay, don't have to take it completely off. Then we loosen our work holder. Okay, and in the front here, we're going to take the dies past our mark. In other words, we set it on 4-inch because this is 4-inch pipe. We're going to try and open it or set it towards where it says change dies. It's never going to get there because of this plug. But what it does is it backs the dies out enough for you to remove the pipe from it without ruining the threads. So we'll pull on both of the knobs and loosen that like that. And now what we'll do is we'll slide this back, and there you have your threaded pipe. In this portion of the video, we're going to thread manually with the 141. The setup remains the same. So as far as mounting the pipe on your tri-stand and mounting the 141 to the pipe, everything I showed you in the previous videos remain the same. Setting up the die head as well. Okay, so everything has already been done. Now instead of using a power drive, what we're going to use is the D1440 ratchet. This has a square drive that matches the square drive on the 141 and the 161 as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that on there, and we will start ratcheting this. Now this usually does take a little bit of time. It'll take anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes to do this, and also you have to oil. But the thing about it is that it's actually easier to thread with this than it is to thread 2-inch pipe because of the 7-to-1 gear reduction that you have. So just be patient. And in some cases where there can be no sparks or anything like that, this is what you have to do. Okay, so as you can see, we've completed our thread. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to back this off until I break those chips off. Okay, there you have it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my wrench here, and I'm going to loosen the die head as well. And I'm going to loosen the pinch screw and the work holder. And we're going to slide this off carefully so that we don't ruin our threads, and put it on the ground. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Ed from Ridgid, and what I'm going to show you in this video is how to mount the 161 to the 300 power drive. Now as far as setting the machine up, it works the same way as the 141 does. And what I'm referring to there is changing your dies, selecting your pipe size, the work holder, the clamp screw, all of that stuff is the same. Okay? Where the differences are is, for example, on the 141, you need this loop. And what the loop does is it keeps the die head from flipping over. Instead of using that loop, what we're going to use are these support arms. Okay, these go mounted into the support arms of the 300 power drive. Some of the other differences are in the guide post. Now you still have the same grooves as you see here. One is for NPSM and the other one is for MPT. Where the difference mainly lies is that this one has, as opposed to this one is blank, this one has a screw hole. And this bolt goes in there. Okay? And what that bolt does is it holds the support arm in place. So you have room for 2 support arms there. Okay? And once we mount this on the machine, I'll show you how all this works. In this portion of the video, we're going to mount the 161 to the 300. So as you did with the 141, we're going to loosen the collet and slide them back, both of them. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our support arms and slide them into the support arms of the 300, just as you see here. Also, it's important to tighten down your collets. If you need to adjust them later, then you can loosen them. But for now, just keep them tight so that nothing moves. Just as you did with the 141, line up your jaws, tighten up your chuck, and then tighten up your centering device. Now at the bottom here, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this screw, and we're going to put both of these support arms in place. And we'll grab our wrench. We'll tighten that up. And as you can see here, there's that support arm sticking out. So what you can do at this point is loosen up your collet, slide that forward, and you do the same thing to the back. Now as far as setting up your pipe, you set up the pipe the same way that we showed you in the 141. Using your pipe stands, making sure everything is level, or at least in line with each other, and at that point you're ready to go. In this portion of the video, we're going to show you how to use the 141 via the 848 drive shaft. What we're going to do here is we're going to mount the pipe, as you see over my left shoulder, to the tri-stand, and then we're going to mount the 141 to the pipe. And by way of the 848 drive shaft and the 300 power drive, we're going to turn the 141 geared threader to create the thread. Everything I'm showing you here also applies to the 161 as well. So when you're using it in this fashion, you can refer to this video for using it as a 161 geared threader as well. Be sure that your tri-stand and your 300 power drive are secured so that you can avoid tipping at that point. You don't want the machine to tip over, and you don't want the tri-stand to tip over as well. So be sure that you have everything secured. At this point, we're going to set this up, and we're going to do 4-inch pipe. So right here by way of the cam plate, you pull these 2 knobs out, and we're going to index this to the 4-inch side as well. Right here on the back side, we're going to make sure that our work holder is completely in the open position, and the clamp screw is backed out to where it's not impeding in the actuation of the jaw itself. So we'll flip this up here, and in the next video we're going to show you how to mount this to the pipe. In this portion of the video, we're going to show you how to mount the 141 to the pipe here, and we're going to do a stationary thread using the 848 drive bar. As per the manual, it's a 2-man lift. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this by the handle and slide the chucking mechanism onto the pipe first. And what we're going to do is we're going to push back on this to make sure that all the throats of the dies are engaged on the end of the pipe. And once that's said and done, I've tightened up my chuck in the back, and now I'm going to tighten up the clamp screw. And there you have it. In this portion of the video, we're going to mount the 848 drive bar to the 300 and the 141. So we have our machine turned around here, and what we're going to do is slide this part of it into the centering device. Make sure it comes out of the chuck in the front. And in the back side here, the square drive is going to go right into the square drive of the 141. And you have two set screws there, the 1/4-inch Allen wrench. So make sure you tighten these up. Okay. And now we're going to come to the machine. And this has a slide on it. And what you want to do is kind of center that there and bring up your centering device. Emphasis on the flats. And there you have it. We're ready to go. Okay, in this portion of the video we have everything set up already, and what we've done is we've paid attention to some detail as per the manual. First and foremost, make sure that you have a clean work area. Okay. As far as setting the drive bar up, you know, and I'm talking about the 300 and the setup that we have over here with the 141, the pipe, and the 460 tri-stand, make sure that everything is secure. Okay, you don't want the machine tipping over on you. What we've done as well is before we install the drive bar, we made sure that the center line of the 300 is in line with the center line of the pipe. Not of the die head, not of what appears. You don't want to straighten this out so that your drive bar is straight, because it's going to rotate around that die head. Okay, so this is actually going to spin, and as it spins, it's going to rotate around the die head. So you have to make sure that you align the center line of the pipe once again with the center line of your 300. Okay. Once again, make sure everything is secure so that nothing tips over, and if this is correctly aligned, you shouldn't have a problem with it. Okay. Now, there's a lot of things that you need to watch here, so I can't stress to you enough, safety has to be of the utmost importance. So make sure that your work area is clear, make sure that there's nobody creeping up behind you, make sure that you fastened everything if you want to go over it again. Also take note that the 300 is actually turned around, and this is as per the manual. So instead of running it forward, we're actually going to run this in reverse. So make sure that your switch is in reverse when you're running this, okay? And it also recommends that you run it from the switch side. So I have my oiler here. Make sure we have ample oil flow. I'm going to bring my foot switch over to about the middle of this, and that way I still have access to get to the switch, and I still can tend to things here as need be. Okay? So I'm going to turn this on now. My machine is plugged in, and here we go. Okay, so now we're at the end of our thread here, and what's going to happen is I'm going to throw the machine in forward, and what's that going to do? Well, what that's going to do, I'm sorry, is it's going to run the die head in the opposite direction, and what we're trying to do is break the chips off, okay? So all you have to do is just jog this. And then what I usually do, just to make sure I'm not clogging up the dies, I'll run that in forward a little bit. And now I will shut my machine off. Okay, so we've completed our thread, and now what's going to happen is we're going to remove the drive shaft. So my machine is off, and what I'm going to do is loosen the front chuck of the machine and loosen the centering device. And I'm not going to try and pull that out. I'm just going to leave that there like that. Okay? What I'm going to come back over here and do is loosen the square drive socket by way of the two set screws that we previously showed you. So you're just undoing what you did previously. And I'm going to slide this back off of the square drive and pull out my drive shaft, and I'll lay this over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the die head, and I'm going to loosen the work holder on it by backing out the pinch screw and opening the jaws. And once again, as per the manual, this is a two-man operation to take off of here, so very carefully not to ruin the threads, we will pull that off and set it on the ground.